Hello, my powerful and deeply intuitive Scorpio soul, and welcome home to the Mystic Astrozen, your sacred space for truth, transformation, and higher awakening. If you've ever sat across from people you once called family and wondered, why do I feel like the enemy in a place that should feel like home? This message has been traveling through time and energy just to reach you. Because what you're feeling isn't just in your head, and the silent tension that lingers in your family dynamic isn't random. It's a soul contract unraveling. You've always been the one who feels more, sees more, and senses what others deny, and lately, that awareness has become heavier. It's not just about a disagreement or a passing misunderstanding. It's a deep soul-level discomfort. One that leaves you emotionally bruised after every encounter, wondering why you're the one carrying the guilt, the weight, the silence. The truth is, Scorpio, someone close to you, perhaps even bound by blood, has quietly decided that your growth threatens them. Your light, your healing, your silence, all of it disturbs their illusion of control. They don't say it, but they feel it. That you're no longer easy to manipulate, no longer willing to shrink just to keep peace. And that, to them, feels dangerous. But here's the deeper layer. Your energy is activating their shadow. You didn't come here to break them. You came here to break the pattern. And while you've tried to stay soft, stay understanding, stay loyal, the universe is now showing you what your intuition has whispered all along. That someone you've tried to love into healing has only drained your life force in return. And now you're left wondering, do I keep trying, or do I finally let go? This isn't just a family issue. It's a spiritual initiation. A test of whether you will choose alignment or obligation. Whether you will betray your truth just to keep false peace, or finally choose yourself, even if it means being misunderstood. Scorpio, this pain was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to awaken you. To help you recognize that loyalty without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. That being the healer in a toxic system only works if you first heal yourself. And that sometimes walking away isn't an act of war. It's the beginning of your freedom. You are not alone in this. You are not being punished. You are being redirected. The universe is breaking the illusion so you can finally return to your soul's truth. So take a deep breath, Scorpio. Ground yourself. Because this journey into the shadow is where you reclaim your light. And in the silence between you and that family member, there lies a deeper message. You were never meant to be like them. You were meant to transcend the pain they couldn't face. And that is your power. Scorpio, the stars don't lie. And right now, they're aligning in ways that are cracking open the truth you've been trying to suppress. With transformational Pluto stirring up old emotional contracts and Saturn testing the strength of your spiritual boundaries, the cosmos is calling you to face something ancestral, karmic, and deeply personal. This isn't just a season of discomfort. It's an astrological awakening. You're not imagining the pressure or the sudden shifts in your family dynamic. You are evolving, and that evolution is shaking the very foundation of those around you, who prefer the familiar over the free. In astrology, Scorpio represents death and rebirth, the energy that breaks down illusions and reveals what's real. And when you begin to embody your higher self, your healing, and your fierce emotional truth, it sends ripples through the old systems you were born into. You are no longer the version of you who stayed quiet to keep others calm, who absorbed everyone's pain so they wouldn't have to face it. And that's why they're reacting, Not because you've changed in a negative way, but because you've outgrown the energetic contract they still cling to. Think of your soul right now as shedding a skin, an old identity tied to your family's expectations, their emotional rules, and unspoken agreements. You're no longer a match to their fear, their avoidance, or their manipulation. And when energy no longer aligns, it creates friction. Your growth is a mirror, Scorpio. And what they see in that mirror is what they've buried for years. Their own stagnation, their own unhealed pain. And while some might feel inspired by your transformation, others, especially the one who wants you gone, feel exposed by it. Because your presence now speaks what you don't even have to say out loud, that you see through the illusion, that you no longer play small, that you've stopped leaking your energy into relationships that thrive off your silence. This is a sacred challenge of the Scorpio soul. Your very essence is alchemical. Your chart holds the signature of the phoenix, the destroyer of shadows. And right now, the universe is giving you permission to stop negotiating your light in rooms that demand your dimness. Astrologically, this is a turning point. As eclipses and retrogrades pull you inward, they're not punishing you, they're positioning you. They're making sure you no longer carry what was never yours to begin with. It's okay if they don't understand your awakening. It's not for them to understand. It's for you to honor. Let this be your cosmic permission slip, Scorpio. You are not here to fix your family's fear. You are here to free yourself from its grip. The planets don't just want you to see the truth. They want you to trust it. Because once you do, the real healing begins, not for them, but for you. Scorpio, the cards don't lie, and today, they reveal something your soul has known for a while, but your heart has hesitated to confront. As I lay down the tarot, the energy speaks volumes. First, the devil emerges, a card not of evil, but of entrapment. It whispers of emotional chains, unspoken manipulation, guilt used as currency. Someone close to you has been weaving an invisible web of control, cloaked in the language of family, duty, or even love. They smile in your presence, but there's a tightening grip behind that smile, one that resents your healing, your light, your power. Next comes the Ten of Swords, and it hits like a silent scream. This is the card of betrayal, not always loud or dramatic, but the kind that happens in whispers, behind closed doors, in cold glances, or passive judgment. It tells me that this family member, perhaps a sibling, parent, or someone you once trusted, deeply feels threatened by who you're becoming. You're no longer seeking their approval. You're no longer dependent on their emotional currency. And that terrifies them. Finally, judgment rises from the deck, and with it, truth, awakening, a reckoning of the soul. This card is the universe's megaphone telling you, you've been too quiet for too long. You've tolerated too much in the name of keeping peace, and now the veil is lifting. You're being asked to see things not as you wish they were, but as they truly are. There is a family member in your energy field who, whether consciously or unconsciously, wants you gone. Not physically, but energetically. They want your silence, your submission, your conformity. Because when you break free, it challenges everything they've built their identity upon. And here's the deeper spiritual truth, Scorpio. Your transformation threatens their illusion. Your light burns through the roles they still hide behind. You becoming whole reminds them of how fragmented they are. So instead of rising with you, they resent you. Instead of healing, they project. And the longer you stay tied to this dynamic, the more your soul feels suffocated, not because you're weak, but because your energy no longer fits inside the walls they've built. This tarot reading isn't here to shame anyone. It's here to awaken you, to show you what your intuition has whispered each time you left a family gathering feeling smaller, drained, misunderstood. It's not just you being sensitive. It's you being psychic. The pain you feel is the echo of truth you haven't yet spoken. But the cards are clear. The time to speak, to act, to liberate is now. Not with revenge, not with rage, but with radiant clarity. Scorpio, this hidden resentment is not your burden to fix. It's your signal to rise. Because the one who sees the shadow is the one who's ready to step fully into the light. And you, Scorpio, were born to rise. Scorpio, your soul was forged in intensity. You were born under a sign that doesn't fear the dark. It studies it, transforms it, and rises through it. But that sacred strength can become a silent curse when it leads you to endure pain in places where you're meant to walk away. You've been the emotional sponge, the silent anchor, the one who absorbs everyone else's storm, because deep down, you believed you could handle it. And you can. But that doesn't mean you should. The wound you carry didn't begin in this relationship. It began long ago, in childhood, in past lives, or in soul contracts that taught you to equate pain with loyalty. Somewhere along the line, you were shown that love is earned through endurance. That if you just hold on a little longer, they'll finally see your heart. But Scorpio, how much longer will you bleed quietly for people who never learned how to? Stop cutting? This shadow, the one that tells you to keep fixing, keep forgiving, keep hoping, isn't weakness. It's your depth misdirected. You see the potential in people, even when they hurt you. You sense their wounds and want to be the alchemist who heals them. But the truth is, not everyone wants to be healed. And some will resent you for even trying, especially when your healing exposes how much they've refused to face their own. This is the karmic loop, staying loyal to their potential while abandoning your reality, making excuses for their behavior because you understand their pain. But your empathy is not an excuse for self-betrayal. You are not here to drown in other people's darkness. You are here to transform, but that transformation must begin with you. This family dynamic is not just a test of your strength. It's a mirror for your shadow, the part of you that believes love must hurt, that silence equals peace, that loyalty means suffering. But the universe is calling you higher now. You're being asked to question. Why am I the one always holding the emotional weight? Why do I stay in rooms that silence me? Why do I keep giving chances to people who only take? Scorpio, your endurance is divine, but only when used in alignment with your truth. Not when it's used to tolerate the intolerable. This pain has shaped you, yes, but it doesn't have to define you. You don't have to keep carrying the weight just because you always have. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to stop explaining yourself. You are allowed to protect your peace. And most of all, you are allowed to choose yourself fully, unapologetically, without guilt. Because this shadow, this wound, this silence, it's not your home. It's your initiation. And beyond it lies the freedom your soul has been craving. Not a freedom granted by others, but the kind you claim when you finally remember. Your healing matters too. Scorpio, one of your most beautiful traits is your unwavering loyalty. When you love, you go all in with your heart, your soul, your silence, your sacrifice. You don't just commit to people. You commit to their wounds, their shadows, their potential. But here's the healing truth the universe is now asking you to fully accept. Loyalty is sacred, yes, but when it becomes a reason to stay in pain, it becomes a prison. You were never meant to be loyal to dysfunction, to betrayal, to silence. That starves your soul. You were never meant to hold on out of guilt or obligation, especially when the weight of that connection is crushing the very parts of you that long to be free. There's a part of you that believes walking away from family or any long-standing relationship is wrong, even selfish. That staying and enduring is somehow noble, even spiritual. But Scorpio, spirituality is not self-abandonment. Being awake does not mean allowing yourself to be mistreated in the name of peace. Real peace is not built on silence or suppression. It is built on truth. And the truth is, staying in a space that dishonors you isn't loyalty. It's self-betrayal dressed in forgiveness. You don't owe anyone your suffering. You don't have to keep bleeding just to prove you care. You can love people and still protect yourself from their pain. You've spent so much time managing their emotions, walking on eggshells, keeping the harmony, swallowing your voice, just to avoid conflict. But what if the real conflict is within you? The conflict between your heart that still hopes and your spirit that's begging you to let go. The healing begins when you realize you are not here to carry what was never yours. You are not responsible for their inability to love you in the way you deserve. You are only responsible for listening to your own inner knowing, and that knowing has been whispering for a long time, hasn't it? That this relationship doesn't feel safe. That your light dims every time you enter that space. That your body tightens, your energy shrinks, and your spirit goes quiet. Scorpio, it's not betrayal to choose yourself. It's not heartless to walk away from what's hurting you. It's alignment. It's wisdom. It's healing. The universe is asking you, now, will you keep pouring into an empty well? Or will you finally turn toward your own reflection and pour into the one soul who has always been worth saving, your own? Let go of the belief that love must equal sacrifice. Let go of the pattern that equates staying with strength, and step into a new truth that your loyalty, when turned inward, becomes liberation. That you can still love them from afar, from a higher place, from a healed heart. But you no longer have to stay in spaces that confuse pain with connection. You were never meant to survive the fire. You were meant to rise from it. And this time, Scorpio, rise for yourself. Scorpio, there comes a moment on every soul's journey when silence becomes unbearable. Not because you crave chaos, but because the truth has grown too loud to ignore. That moment is here. You've carried the weight of this connection, this family tie, this unspoken tension for far too long. You've twisted yourself into silence, into softness, into second chances, hoping they would meet you halfway. But they never do. Not because you're unworthy, but because your energy no longer feeds their illusion. And now you stand at the crossroads, not of revenge, not of confrontation, but of liberation. The most powerful endings are not always loud. Sometimes they happen quietly, inside the soul, when you decide, once and for all, I will not bleed for this anymore. This is your awakening moments, Scorpio. The moment you recognize that staying tethered to their dysfunction is not love, it's a chain. An invisible one, made of guilt, memory, and emotional conditioning. And now, the universe is placing the key in your hand. The key is choice. You can choose to stay and replay the karmic pattern, or you can choose to walk, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity, out of love for your own peace. This doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't mean you wish them harm. It simply means you love yourself enough to stop begging for a seat at a table that only feeds your wounds. Walking away is not always physical. Sometimes it's energetic. It's the soft but firm decision to stop engaging, stop overgiving, stop explaining your worth to those who've already decided not to see it. And that energetic shift, however quiet, echoes through the entire cosmos. Because when a Scorpio reclaims their power, when they stop asking for love from the places that refuse to give it, something alchemical happens. The chains fall. The soul rises, and the universe responds. You begin to attract peace instead of confusion, wholeness instead of guilt, clarity instead of conflict, and most importantly, you start hearing yourself again. Your real voice, the one you buried beneath their expectations, the one that knows exactly where to go next. This is not the end of love. It's the beginning of sacred boundaries. This is not an abandonment. It's a homecoming to the version of you that no longer tolerates emotional starvation just to keep someone else comfortable. You don't have to scream. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to choose. Choose your healing. Choose your future. Choose your freedom. Scorpio, this is the moment the chain breaks, not with rage, but with truth. Not with fear, but with love. And as you walk forward, lighter and clearer than ever, you'll realize letting go was never the end. It was the initiation your soul was waiting for all along. Scorpio, as you begin to pull away, whether physically, emotionally, or energetically, you may feel a wave of conflicting emotions. Relief, grief, peace, confusion. That's natural. You're not just detaching from a person, you're detaching from an old version of yourself, one that was conditioned to believe love meant endurance, silence, or sacrifice. But now, in this sacred space of distance, something begins to shift. The fog starts to clear. The weight that once sat heavy on your chest begins to lift. And for the first time in a long time, you can finally hear your own heartbeat without the noise of their opinions, guilt, or emotional chaos. Distance is not always about leaving someone behind. It's about returning to yourself. And in this space, you begin to notice things you couldn't before. How much of your energy was spent tiptoeing, overthinking, overcompensating. How often you second-guessed your worth just to keep the connection alive. How deeply you ignored your intuition, simply because you didn't want to cause a ripple. But Scorpio, your soul was never meant to shrink for anyone, not even family. And now that you've stepped back, even just a little, your nervous system is beginning to regulate. Your spirit is starting to exhale. You may find yourself sleeping better, breathing deeper, or simply feeling more like you. That's not a coincidence. That's healing. In the absence of their energy, your essence returns. And something beautiful begins to emerge. The memory of who you were before the dysfunction tried to define you. The real you. The soul deep you. The version of yourself who trusts your own instincts, who speaks without fear, who walks in peace instead of tension. And from this space of inner clarity, you'll start to realize you never needed their validation. You needed your own permission to walk away to rest, to choose peace over performance. The most miraculous part of this healing path is that the universe begins to meet you halfway. As you let go of what's toxic, new connections form. Soul, family emerges. Those who resonate with your light, not your wounds. The right people don't need you to explain your worth. They feel it, and they honor it. This chapter of distance is not a punishment. It's a sacred pause, a spiritual recalibration, a time where you gather all the pieces of yourself that were scattered across old arguments, unmet expectations, and emotional exhaustion. You bring them home. And as you do, you realize you've never truly lost anyone. You've only released what was misaligned. Scorpio, don't fear the space between you and them. Embrace it. Because in that space, your higher self finally has room to speak. And what it's whispering now is simple, powerful, and life-changing. You are safe. You are seen. You are free. Let this distance be your sanctuary. Let it show you what was always waiting once you let go. The return of your own radiant clarity. Scorpio, as you begin to pull away, whether physically, emotionally, or energetically, you may feel a wave of conflicting emotions. Relief, grief, peace, confusion. That's natural. You're not just detaching from a person, you're detaching from an old version of yourself, one that was conditioned to believe love meant endurance, silence, or sacrifice. But now, in this sacred space of distance, something begins to shift. The fog starts to clear. The weight that once sat heavy on your chest begins to lift. And for the first time in a long time, you can finally hear your own heartbeat without the noise of their opinions, guilt, or emotional chaos. Distance is not always about leaving someone behind. It's about returning to yourself. And in this space, you begin to notice things you couldn't before. How much of your energy was spent tiptoeing, overthinking, overcompensating. How often you second-guessed your worth just to keep the connection alive. How deeply you ignored your intuition, simply because you didn't want to cause a ripple. But Scorpio, your soul was never meant to shrink for anyone, not even family. And now that you've stepped back, even just a little, your nervous system is beginning to regulate. Your spirit is starting to exhale. You may find yourself sleeping better, breathing deeper, or simply feeling more like you. That's not a coincidence. That's healing. In the absence of their energy, your essence returns, and something beautiful begins to emerge. The memory of who you were before the dysfunction tried to define you. The real you. The soul deep you. The version of yourself who trusts your own instincts, who speaks without fear, who walks in peace, instead of tension. And from this space of inner clarity, you'll start to realize you never needed their validation. You needed your own permission to walk away, to rest, to choose peace over performance. The most miraculous part of this healing path is that the universe begins to meet you halfway. As you let go of what's toxic, new connections form. Soul, family emerges. Those who resonate with your light, not your wounds. The right people don't need you to explain your worth. They feel it, and they honor it. This chapter of distance is not a punishment. It's a sacred pause, a spiritual recalibration, a time where you gather all the pieces of yourself that were scattered across old arguments, unmet expectations, and emotional exhaustion. You bring them home. And as you do, you realize you've never truly lost anyone. You've only released what was misaligned. Scorpio, don't fear the space between you and them. Embrace it. Because in that space, your higher self finally has room to speak. And what it's whispering now is simple, powerful, and life-changing. You are safe. You are seen. You are free. Let this distance be your sanctuary. Let it show you what was always waiting once you let go. The return of your own radiant clarity. Scorpio, not all families are made of love, and not all soul families are made of blood. In this lifetime, some of the deepest pain doesn't come from strangers, but from those we once believed would protect us. And when that trust is broken, when the people who should uplift us instead reject or diminish us, it wounds something ancient in the soul. But here's the deeper truth your spirit is ready to hear. Some family members are not here to love you the way you deserve. They're here to awaken you. And through that awakening, you remember who you truly are. From the cosmic view, relationships within families are not accidents. They're contracts, agreements made before you even arrived in this lifetime. You chose them, and they chose you. Why? Because your soul needed to learn something through them. Maybe it was how to recognize your worth. Maybe it was how to speak your truth. Maybe it was how to stop seeking external validation and instead turn inward for divine guidance. And for many Scorpios, those lessons come through betrayal, power, struggles, or emotional abandonment. Painful, yes, but sacred. Because it's through those soul-fracturing experiences that your spiritual gifts begin to activate. The wounds become portals. The heartbreak becomes the key to your freedom. But just because a contract was made doesn't mean it has to last forever. Some soul agreements are meant to expire. And when they do, continuing to engage in those dynamics only recycles the pain. Scorpio, this part of your journey is about soul graduation. You've learned what you needed to learn. You've tried, forgiven, stayed silent, held space. And now the universe is gently, but firmly, releasing you from that karmic bond, not as punishment, but as promotion. You are evolving beyond the need to fix what was never yours to carry. Let this be your permission to redefine what family means to you. Your soul family, those who see you, feel you, support you without control, will begin to appear the moment you make room. The more you shed what was forced, the more you attract what is free. True family feels safe. It nurtures your growth, not punishes it. It celebrates your light, not competes with it. And it never asks you to shrink just to stay connected. You don't owe anyone access to your spirit simply because of shared DNA. Your loyalty belongs first to your soul. And when you align with that truth, you stop searching for love in places that can only offer fear. You stop giving sacred energy to those who have no intention of honoring it. You become your own family, whole, radiant, enough. Scorpio, the pain was real, but so is your power. And now, by releasing the story you were born into, you're free to write the one your soul came here to live. Not out of bitterness, but out of cosmic wisdom. And that, dear Scorpio, is the greatest healing of all. Scorpio, take a breath, because what you've just uncovered isn't just a message, it's a turning point. You didn't come here to live in the shadow of other people's pain. You didn't come here to keep proving your worth to those committed to misunderstanding you. You came here to awaken, to rise, to reclaim your power and your peace. And now, as you stand on the other side of this truth, Know this. You are not broken. You are not the villain for choosing distance. You are not heartless for protecting your spirit. You are wise. You are rising. And most of all, you are finally free. Let them say what they want. Let them misunderstand your silence. What matters now is that you understand yourself. You no longer need to chase love in places that echo with resentment. You no longer need to explain your healing to those who refuse to heal themselves. This chapter of your life is about peace, not performance. About choosing your soul over someone else's script. Scorpio, you are not walking away from love. You are walking toward it, toward the version of you that no longer tolerates being unseen. And in this moment, as your spirit settles into that knowing, say it with your whole heart. I choose me. Let that be your mantra. Let that be your compass. And if this message has touched something real inside you, don't keep it to yourself. Comment below. I choose my healing over my history. Subscribe to the Mystic Astrozen for weekly soul wisdom. And remember, your light is not too much. It's just too divine for those not ready. This is your time, Scorpio. Set yourself free.